I'm going to show you the secrets of creating a window box for the shade with some really weird ideas you may never have thought of before. First of all, we start out pretty normal. Here I've got this window box. It's in a very protected area, but it's very shaded. So I'm using some shade-loving plants. This plant right here is called Schizanthus, poor man's orchid. It's kind of an unusual plant that does fantastic in Western Washington. You see it up in Victoria, BC in flower baskets all the time. So that's a very busy bicolored bloom. So I like to use a solid color next to it. This is a lime-colored Coleus. Now Coleus do not like the cold, so I don't put them out until later in the year when there's all danger of frost is past. So here's that solid Coleus leaf going next to the Schizanthus, and overhanging that is a little orange bloom of a bonfire begonia. Now, bonfire begonias, you buy them like this. They are fantastic. They're a new plant from Australia, from Anthony Tesler, the guy who gave us the flower carpet rose and Canna Tropicana. And this plant is going to spill over the edge. It's going to do just a whole bonfire of orange blooms. Fantastic plant that does well in shade or sun. So I added some nonstop begonias. The nonstop begonias have smaller flowers but more flowers. And all these plants do fantastic in the shade. So here comes the weird part. To save money, dirt cheap gardeners, I've added lime green lamium ground cover. And where did I get that? Well, I just went into my garden and yanked ground covers out of the ground. You can yank a juga out of the ground if you have that in your garden, or creeping jenny. And they're tough plants because they're ground covers, so they're perfect for fitting into the little holes in this cocoa fiber mat. To keep the plant in place, I take a little wad of moss. These ground cover plants do best in this lower level here. Look at this plant, a lot of color. It's a house plant. Yep, you can buy very inexpensive house plants at your garden center. Take them out of their pots and use those in your window boxes or your container gardens. The reason that I like to do that is because they come in small pots and they give you a lot of color. They're usually tropical with beautiful foliage. So it's a lot of color for inexpensive amount of money. And now I'm going to fill in for more color. So look what I've done. I've cut off blooms of euphorbia. But you can cut blooms of anything in your garden. Hydrangeas, the cut blooms go right into the damp soil. It gives you an instant shot of color. It's not going to last more than a couple weeks, but if it's outdoors, in the shade, in a cool area, you get some great color while you're waiting for everything else to fill in. And now, something else that's really unusual. I've cut branches of evergreen camellias and branches from another evergreen shrub called leucothe, or rainbow bush. And I'm going to poke those into the bare soil as well. And this just gives it a more full look while I'm waiting for those plants to fill in. I can use the cut camellia to poke in to try and hold those young plants in while the roots knit into the soil. And it is just a really great way. I do this often if, for instance, on Easter, I had a lot of people over and things weren't very full. It was very early in the spring. I just cut evergreen branches and fill in my container gardens. And they're going to look good for a couple of weeks. And you might be surprised because some of these even root, especially the hydrangeas. Later in the summer, I stick cut hydrangea blossoms into my container gardens and they root. So you get a really, really full look. And there's one more secret I want to tell you about. I often will reuse my potting soil year after year. The reason I can do that is because of this. I use a slow release plant food. I always choose Osmocote because I don't have to worry about burning these plants with too much fertilizer. Osmocote releases the nutrients very slowly. The plants don't get burned tips, and it does a great job of letting me recycle my potting soil year after year. I just sprinkle the Osmocote into the potting soil before I plant. So there you go. I hope you get really creative and inventive and do some wild and crazy things with your window boxes and container gardens this year. So we just learned how to plant a window box for the shade. Now let's find out the right way to plant a rhododendron.
Hi, I'm Chef Delatorre from Johnson & Wales University. Today I'm going to show you what to do with those early greens that you can find in your garden with an arugula chimichurri.